Every day on the news, we see a world hurtling from one crisis to the next.
Most of us are running faster than ever just to keep food on the table and a roof over our head.
But worst of all, we're told it's our fault. It's human nature.
It can certainly look that way, but dig a little deeper and something else emerges.
The ever-expanding global economy.
A healthy economy is one in which humans meet their needs without destroying nature or without harming others. Our current system has brought benefits to many people, but we are now seeing the true cost of those benefits. The cogs of the modern economy were set in motion in the late 1400s, when the elites in Europe began destroying close-knit, self-reliant communities through a process called the enclosures. They burnt crops and destroyed villages.
In the same period, they also began invading and decimating local economies around the world, making slaves of their populations.
These slaves were then used to grow crops like cotton and sugar for export.
And so began a historical shift, a move away from local communities providing for their own needs towards large-scale production for a global market.
The end result was that global traders got richer and richer at the expense of society as a whole.
And favouring global traders over community is still a central cog in the economic machine today.
Our governments have been using our tax money to subsidize and deregulate these global corporations.
Big tech, big ag, big media, big oil, big banks, big pharma.
While at the same time squeezing local and national businesses through heavy taxation and over-regulation.
Two very different sets of rules, one for the local, another for the global.
Today, these corporations and banks have become a sort of global invisible empire, to the point where they regularly determine the policies of our governments.
Like when the German government was sued by a fossil fuel company for not letting it build a power plant that would pollute a pristine river.
Trade has always been a part of our lives, but it has now acquired an almost religious status, resulting in meat, vegetables, manufactured goods, currencies, even bottled water, moving around the globe in every direction.
In 2019, the US imported 1.4 million tons of beef and veal, and in the same year exported almost exactly the same amount.
While English-grown apples have travelled all the way to South Africa to be washed and waxed, then flown back again to be sold.
Routinely exploiting human labour and burning vast amounts of fossil fuels.
As a result, we are currently using twice as many resources as the Earth can replenish in a year. And at a target rate of 3% growth a year, the global economy will be double its size in 2043 and 7 times bigger in 2100.
The taxes we pay from our hard work are not supporting our local communities or the things we value, like health, the environment, or democracy. Instead, they're propping up this ever-expanding economic machine.
A machine that made the world's billionaires $3.9 trillion during the first year of COVID.
A machine that is driving climate change and mass extinction.
A machine that still today requires 45 million slaves.
We are blindly crowdfunding our own social and environmental demise.
So what can we do?
Lots. We can still turn things around if we focus on reversing the central cogs of the machine, away from the global and towards the local. When we realize that the machine is working against almost everyone's interest, then there's genuine hope of building up enough people power to turn the cogs around.
Right now, we are allowing the rules of this system to be written by a tiny minority.
And why is this happening? Largely because of ignorance. We know that big corporations have too much power, but we hear almost nothing about how the economic system works to give them that power.
And it is ignorance. The vast majority of us, even those who work within corporations, don't want to see nature destroyed or a wider gap between rich and poor.
That's why raising awareness needs to be our first action.
Big picture activism.
That means showing how the global system is damaging both people and planet, and how going local can help to turn things around.
It's vital that we share this knowledge so we can unite social and environmental activists.
And bring about a mass movement to make a united demand of our governments.
Re-regulate the big and global.
Rebuild
The small and local. This doesn't mean eliminating global trade, but rather encouraging greater self-reliance.
Which is what COVID has taught us. As we enter a future of more pandemics and more climate shocks, we're going to need local control over our basic needs, especially food and energy.
Yes, and that means shifting taxes, regulations and subsidies that currently favour global trade to support local, regional and national economies instead.
To be really clear, this isn't nationalism.
It's about ensuring that the democratic process shapes business, rather than big business shaping our societies, supporting small scale on a large scale.
This means supporting more diversified small farms selling at local markets and shops.
It means supporting community energy and local finance initiatives.
More models of usership rather than ownership.
Or citizen juries and local democracy models.
Because it's on the foundations of local economies that the deep bonds of community can be built.
Going local offers us a genuine human connection.
And that's why a localization movement is already happening around the world. It's time to wake up, listen, learn, and act.
It's time to demand these changes from our politicians and to elect brave leaders who support these changes.
It's time to embrace Indigenous wisdom and remember that our real economy is the living world.
It's time to stop fighting each other and start fighting for a better system.
Just imagine how different our world would look if we allowed the small, the diverse, the authentic to flourish.
There's nothing inevitable or natural about our current system.
It's man-made.
And if enough of us come together, we can change it.